this is Dominic, wedding DJ.
And this is Serena, wedding planner.
And together we are the Wedding Duo. We are here to talk all things weddings.
Planning a wedding can be stressful, but we are here to help.
So before you say, that's it, we're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas.
Let's have some fun.
Join us as we answer your wedding questions and help navigate planning one of the biggest days of your life with the Wedding Duo. Hello again, everyone out there in listening land. We are back. It's the Wedding Duo podcast once more.
Oh, and we are excited. We've been on kind of a roll lately with guests, and we have a great one today.
We do. Hello, friend.
So excited. Feel so fancy on a podcast. Will admit, my first podcast, I listen to them all the time. I listen to y'all's, but I've never been on one.
You're a big deal now.
Yeah, this is your inaugural visit, and you are a big deal, and we are excited to chat with you. But who are you?
My name is Kristin Voss. Kendall Point is my venue. Yes, under TikTok, it is Texas Wedding Venue, because that was clever. We built Kendall Point about 12 years ago from the ground up, inspired by, we lived in New Orleans, born and raised in Texas, lived in New Orleans for a few years, fell in love with this old historical type homes. The classic white on black, white walls, black shutters, very clean, neutral palette. That's what we wanted to design for brides here in Texas. God bless Texas, but there's so many venue options, and a lot of them were more for the rustic bride. So we wanted to offer something that was a little bit more elevated, a little more classic, can still offer that rustic vibes. You can do anything here. You guys know you've been here dozens of times, so you know what we can do here. So any palette works, but we didn't want brides and grooms to have to work so hard to create this vibe that they want in a shell that didn't work, so everything works here. So when we designed this venue, that's what we wanted. Staircase, fabulous, inside and outside. Turf grass outside because bugs. And those were the goals.
It is elegant, that's for sure. That's a great term because it's very unique in all the venues we go to, which is what, 60 plus that we're on the vendor lists around here. And whenever I hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm at Kendall Point," I'm always like, "Oh, good choice." And I would say, you do get your steps in, but those stairs, both the stairs going down to the venue, it's gorgeous. And then the stairs inside are just stunning.
Yes. And something we're going to chat about, maybe we'll just dive right into it, Kristin. What are your advice for brides if they have stairs at their venue? Because a lot of venues have those dramatic staircases. So do you have any tips or tricks for brides if they have to walk a lot of stairs for their entrance or...
Yeah, I think we have to get over the scariness of stairs. I always tell my brides that even when they tour, and then the moment I help them walk out that door, they say, "Oh my gosh, these stairs are going to scare me." By the time it's go time, their adrenaline is going so hard, they're not looking at the stairs. They are eyes locked on groom, dad, mom, whoever's walking them down the aisle, and they just go down the stairs. And then they forget that they're walking downstairs. It's something very natural. So I think you have to embrace stuff like that. If your venue has stairs or if it has inclines or any kind of something that is not flat walking surface for heels, your adrenaline is going so hard at go time. Those things don't even matter. Same with the weather, right? Too hot, too cold. Bride and groom's adrenaline's going so hard, they don't even know what's happening.
I was just talking with the bride about your venue who I'm working with. It's coming up here pretty soon. And I said, I've seen it several different ways, which is a fraction of the ways you've seen it. But do more people... Because it's, for those who don't, it's how many stairs are there outside?
I should count them. I don't know, but a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, what, 60?
Yeah, I was going to say 50 or 60.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So it's just stunning because the bride appears at the top, and then she can pause up there, and then she makes her way down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen it where both parents, she comes down by herself, and then the parents jump in at the bottom. I've seen the bridesmaids come down and then grab a groomsman at the bottom, and then they go down the aisle together. What is more common, do you think?
You know what? We see it both ways. It's whatever they're comfortable with. I think gone are the days where you have to do it like this and you have to have an escort and your dad has to walk you down the aisle. No. You do whatever you want.
Right.
And that's what makes it great. And then we do have those couples who want to come down the stairs by themselves solo and have their grand entrance and they're very extra. And I love that. That when they come down all the stairs, it's not like, and Dominic, maybe sometimes you DJ these very short aisles and you can't even play that whole song or you get to the crescendo of the song and you're like, dang, that would have been a good stop. Well, you have a long time here. Like, it's very grand.
That's a good point. And a lot of our couples listening, some of our most popular TikToks talk about orchestrating that grand entrance with the music. And so this is something for you all listeners to think about. How long is the walk for your venue? Talk to your DJ about the song choices and what part of the song you want to utilize. And does that work with the length of walk that you have, right? So these are all pieces. So now let's dive into something else that I want to talk to Kristin about. So if a couple comes to you initially and they're checking out your venue, what are some of the best questions that you think like couples should ask a venue, or like red flags, like things that stand out for couples, good and bad?
You know what? In 12 years, I've done a lot of tours, thousands and thousands of tours. It really has been refined in the last 5 or 6. We realized we are not just selling a venue. It's the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think no matter where couples go and what venues they're setting tours with, you have to feel that experience. Is that salesperson giving you the tour, like giving you the warm and fuzzies? I try so hard to make a connection and give the warm and fuzzies. And usually you can make that connection with a couple. And I want that couple to realize it is an experience. Like, we're with you from start to finish. And we're not just going to change the toilet paper on wedding day. We walk with you. We help you out the door. We stand with you with your photos, make sure that you and your guests have a great experience. So I think when couples are touring venues, you got to feel the warm and fuzzies. It just has to feel right. Yes, be beautiful, be all the things, but that venue has to speak with you, and the people behind the venue have to speak with you. So I think experience is number one. I think red flags are for couples that are touring venues. Obviously, if it just doesn't feel right, is communication tough? Texting, email, phone calls, you're not hearing back from these people. That sends a message like, hey, we're a venue, we're too busy for you. Oh, we never want to send that message, and that it breaks my heart when I hear couples say that. I fell in love with this venue, but they can give me the time of day, So when they're touring venues, yes, make that connection and ask things like, well, who's going to be here on wedding day? And how many people do you have on wedding day? And who's going to control my lights? A big question that people ask, how long do I have the venue? 4 hours, 5 hours? All right, well, here you get it from 10 a.m. on, so it's all day, but that's a very short day. Serena, like planning weddings, that is a short day. That is hair and makeup at 10. That is photos at 2 o'clock. It's wedding at 4. That day just got really short, really fast.
Yes.
You need all that time. I think that's important in a venue is having all day, one wedding per day.
That's oh my gosh. I have this memory of this venue in California. They were a country club and they had 3 different venue locations, 3 different sizes, but they would do a morning, afternoon, and evening wedding. So you could show up on a Saturday in busy season and be one of 9 brides there that day. Guests would show up and be like, hi, I'm here for the wedding. And they were like, with the clipboard, what's the last name of
right.
That is like, and then there was this beautiful fountain out front, and there was a queue at any time of 2 or 3 brides waiting to get a picture in front. And I was like, oh, it just was to be. I mean, again, if that's the venue you pick, of course, that's not a reason not to choose it. But it is really nice when it's like you're the only woman in white on that day at that venue.
Yes.
But to your other point, when the couples tour the venue, right? I mean, whether it's the bride, maid of honor, mom, or the groom is lucky enough to be there, all that stuff. They're envisioning their day there, right? They're trying to picture it. And I can tell just by you were talking, you're there with them to do the same thing when I'm talking about the music coming down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
I try to let's paint that picture for you, right? And the brides will grab onto that. And if you don't, I've had some people that are just abrasive and they're like, you can't do this. You got to be out of here by this time. You got to, and I'm like, you're like bride repellent. Like, be excited with the bride, that is really important. I think with any vendor you're trying to pick is like, are they going to be excited with you on your day, or is it just another day for them?
Yeah. So important, that connection for any vendor.
You hit a huge question there, is how long do you get the venue, right? Because and the other question is, and you of course have a beautiful bride suite, a beautiful groom's quarters. Groom suite, what do you call it?
Yeah, sure. Groom's room.
Groom's room.
It does rhyme.
It is. It's really convenient if they can just come there in their pajamas or their sweats or the yoga pants with all the stuff and just get ready on site, as opposed to get ready at the hotel. And it's not a super big thing, but it's just cool to be able to say, we're going to move in the morning, drop anchor, and just do the day there, right? Whereas some venues, and again, this is not a shot against any venue, it's just everyone's different. But man, 4 hours, if you have the venue for 4 hours, that is, man, the pedal is just down the whole time.
Yeah. Pressure all the time, right? Yeah, especially as a wedding planner, like getting that means all your vendors are coming in at the exact same time. So DJs on top of florists, on top of caterer, on top of bartender, everyone hurt each other. It's just not good. It's not a good look for anyone.
No. So let's chat then. We're kind of getting into this subject. So let's just dive right in. Preferred vendors, right? Like, so if a couple comes in, they're signed on with you, what is your process for like recommending vendors, and why are there preferred vendor lists at venues from your perspective?
So glad you asked that, because we got to talk about vendors list. Most of the time when the couples come to tour, we are the first venue or the first vendor in the whole industry they're talking to. Very rarely do we have a wedding planner come with a client.
Right.
Hey, we're looking for venue. Most of the time they're looking at venue first, right? So I have the opportunity, and venues have the opportunity to really set the tone. I love being the first tour that brides take, because I really get to set the tone and make the other venues work harder to,
I love it.
Raise the bar, girl, raise the bar.
Yes, I love that part. But a vendors list, we've been open for 12 years. Like I said, we didn't really hone in on this vendors list till about 5 years ago. So we worked years for finding the perfect vendors. And we're not just adding vendors onto a list to fill a page. They're not getting paid. We're not getting paid. It's based on what we see day in and day out from other like-minded vendors who hustle hard, who have like-minded goals, who their social is awesome, their website is awesome, they answer the phone, text, email. And then when they're here on wedding day, they come with these just positive vibes, happy to be here, not just, oh, when is this going to be over? Like, we all have those moments, right, in October. But we want the vendor that shows up happy every time and is just vibing that happiness, because your guests can feel it. And if you don't think the couple can feel your attitude, like even with a smile, there's no fake it till you make it. I feel like in the wedding industry, like they have to feel that. So those vendors lists, we have to be really careful about. And for us, we have a list that they have to choose from certain caterers. And that's basically for quality control, right? So we don't want Uncle Bob's neighbor's barbecue company to come in. And ultimately, every vendor that a couple hires is a direct reflection on the venue, because those 200 guests don't know that that's not my catering staff. That's not my bar staff. They think that's my DJ staff. The photographer was mean. They think that that's us. I mean, it happens, unfortunately. So that's why we came up with this list that said, hey, brides, here's a list of people that are tried and true. We did our homework, so you don't have to. Like, stick to the list. And you have freedom. If you don't like it for whatever reason, yes, go find your own, but stay off Craigslist, please.
Right.
Well, from your perspective, too, people don't appreciate, like, most of us, this is not our only event that weekend, right? So for you, if you have a caterer come in that just trashes your kitchen, who's flipping that room, who's cleaning up that mess, who's taking out the trash? And I think every venue has gone through this, because we've worked with venues that started and they were like, they've leaned on us, like, hey, come in and help us. Yeah, I know. And I was like, but the one thing I always said is, like, one thing you're going to want to do is require your caterers to take the trash with them, because one event will fill your dumpster and now you don't have, where's the trash go, right? Or just all these little things that you have probably learned from the get-go. You're like, oh, it's fine, you can bring in your whatever, your uncle with an iPod for the DJ, and then you're like, wow, that was just, yeah. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I can only imagine the learning curve in the first year. You were just like, oh my God, we got to set some rules here.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing too, and you touched on this, and this is what I was going to say before. Weddings are unlike anything else you'll do, like, as a business, right? Because it's such a personal, such an important day for these couples. So when we talk about being all in, being excited, that means a lot, right? Like, that should be your focus on wedding day. That couple, their experience, them having a good time, them being in the bubble of bliss, as we like to call it. And so you want to get that feeling from all of your vendors. And yes, of course, it is a job for us as well. And as Kristin mentioned, we all have those moments of, oh my gosh, I'm tired, or, I have to get up early the next day, or whatever it is. But as long as you have in the forefront of your mind, this is this couple's only wedding, right? maybe I have another wedding tomorrow, but this is their only wedding, right? That is what shines through, I think, for the better vendors.
However, from a budgetary standpoint, everybody's always looking for, doesn't your cousin have a photography business? Don't you have a cousin, a friend didn't you go to high school with that guy who's DJing or whatever? And
right.
I mean, I understand the budget side of it, because newsflash, it gets expensive really fast, but there's a few areas. I mean, what do you require on the list? Is it bar and catering? Are those the two that you require them to come off the list? Yeah. Those are the two I think that are most people, because the bar too, you don't want your cousin serving the beer. That's not a good option.
Really.
No, but
license wise,
it's just over serving. I'm sure you've got some nightmare stories there.
Yeah. I mean, well, the alcohol and sometimes, but with that quality control, these bartenders are the same ones usually every weekend, and it's a professional company. And so they have a lot on the line too. So they don't want to overserve, of course, but they want to let people have a good time. And there's a fine line, and they know what that line is. And to your budget point, I'm sure you guys have heard this, and every few weeks I'll post it on Instagram. If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, wait till you hire an amateur. Yes, budget is important. And I like staying within a budget. And I think that's important for couples. Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast, I'm sure, that you guys
yes, for sure.
We've had several.
You're going to do this once. That doesn't mean you have to blow it up, but you want to do it right. So hire the professionals and kind of lean on the other vendors. And if you're seeing these vendors on my list and another venue's list and another venue's list, oh, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. They've been vetted. And then talk to your DJ. Have you worked with this coordinator? Have you worked with this photographer? Because that's important too, because we're all working together. So if I have a DJ here that's just a total jerk and a bummer, it's like, he doesn't work with a photographer either, and he doesn't get along with the planner because he wants to hijack the timeline, because a lot of times the DJ thinks that they're like the one stop, the all, the everything. Man, what a buzzkill for the couple, So
isn't that funny? That is kind of a thing, and that's a whole other podcast topic too, the DJ ego.
Hey.
It happens, right? You've worked with them. It happens.
Unfortunately,
I'm feeling attacked. Trigger warning.
You keep it in check, but unfortunately, sometimes the personality that is good and fun and likes to talk on the mic can lend itself to be a little bit of an ego thing too. So
generally, it's a big personality that finds their way behind the DJ booth, right? For the most part. But this is a great point. Let's talk about this for a second, because there's a venue person sometimes that's very involved, and they've seen a million weddings. There's a planner sometimes. And then as a DJ, there's a lot of times where I'm the only professional there, and somebody has to run the show. Somebody has to be that point of contact, because sometimes it's Aunt Betty that's the planner, or the maid of honor. And then they have a glass of wine. I'm like, please give me the reins. Let me run this thing, because you don't know what you're doing, And again, that sounds harsh, but I'm just saying, like, I've seen more weddings in a month than most people do in a lifetime, right? Like, this is what I do. But to your point, when there's multiple people, we all have to be on the same page, right? You can't have multiple timelines. You can't have people that are just doing their thing and going off telling people, I'll do it when I'm ready to do it. And you're like, because I've heard these stories from other DJs or whatever. And I'm like, man, you have to, and usually it's the planner, right? If they hired a planner, that's the person that at the end of the day, we can all talk about, hey, do you mind? I think it works better if we tweak this or do that. And most people are like, yeah, let's do that. That's fine. And sometimes the day will do it. You'll get behind on something, and we're brainstorming as a group, like, hey, what's the best way to pick up this slack here? But man, I can only imagine. I mean, Serena will tell you, I try desperately to be like, I don't want to be that guy that's like derailing the train ever. I never want, even if I'm thinking like, this is a bad idea, but I mean, I'll express it, but then I'm not going to like try to take over. No way.
No.
But you have to sometimes say, just a couple of months ago, we'll just say that.
Yeah.
The DJ started the toast. He said, okay, bride and groom, come to the stairs. We're going to start the toast. My photographer and videographer were still upstairs eating. And the bartenders had no idea about the toast. It's like, but this DJ was so fixated on this timeline. The timeline said 7 p.m. All right, bro, like, I get it, but we got to be fluid here. And each vendor has to communicate with each other. I mean, I know what most vendors are going to do by where they're standing at the room and what they're looking at. And I think that's a good vibe. So for couples that are trying to figure out who they want to use as vendors, the best experience that we can give them is hiring those vendors that are experienced with the venue and have worked together. That changes the whole experience of a wedding. Just finding people who know each other, like, oh yeah, I love working with Dominic, or I love working with Jess, the photographer, like whoever it is.
Right.
What a game changer for your event, you know?
Yeah. And I think that too, like, just lends itself to the experience afterwards. So let's talk about like couples, you know, the days or weeks after their wedding, like, oh my God, this vendor was amazing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the experiences you get from those people. And you touched on something like briefly, Kristin, that I want to just mention. Are the vendors, we are one of the vendors on your preferred list.
Are we still? Last we checked. Okay, good. Just checking. Just throwing that out there.
is there a kickback thing going on here, right? Let's bring that up. Let's be realistic. Like, we have never paid to be on a preferred vendor list, and we want to kind of squash that myth that happens frequently, because we just don't see that happening at all.
Do you think it's taboo for couples to ask that when they're touring venues? I always welcome that question. You know, you need that. When you're touring venues, ask them, hey, how did you get these vendors on your list? Are they, how much is there under the table, kickbacks, whatever you want to call it?
Right.
Man, that's a red flag to me when that's happening. And I understand a venue, we have a lot of cost to cover. You know, when the caterers coming in using our ice, our dumpster, our trash bags, kitchen, water, all that. Yes, they're using all of our things, making a profit off of these couples. Well, that's the cost of doing business.
Sure.
I think it is. And I know that there are venues that do it, and that's not to knock any, or wedding coordinators, wedding planners who do the same thing with DJs and photographers. But can you really, if that's happening, can that vendor really say, oh yeah, I would recommend them for my own daughter's wedding? Or is it a money thing? You know, if I recommend them, I get $100. I think it's a red flag.
Yeah.
I think most of them are like you, where it's like, I want to work with this person because they're good and they're passionate.
They make my life easier as a venue, right? Like, if I have all the professionals, I know I'm going to have an easy night. You know, it's going to be, you know, a great time. So
the other thing is, if they did pay to play and then they just crash and burn and this person's wedding, they're going to come back to you and be like, Kristin, you referred me to this person.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, but they pay me to be on my list. I mean, oh my gosh, that's a
harsh conversation.
At some point, I could imagine people that maybe started that road and they were like, okay, that's done. That ship has sailed. We're not doing that anymore. I always feel like we've earned the right to be on a vendor list. And that is like, for us, man, that's cherished ground. That's like, that's like tip of the mountain to be on a vendor list, especially because that's, to your point, you're the first person that they book. They can't book anybody else downstream until they book you. Then they have a date, because we can't do anything without a date, but you're the one that drives that whole train. So
yeah, absolutely. I want you to tell a story. Tell us a fun
here we go.
venue. It can either be kind of like crazy, or it can just be sweet. Or what is your favorite venue story?
Over 1,000 weddings. You know, and we have seen so many cool things. I have seen helicopter landings. I've seen the Spurs Coyotes. I've seen the governor of Texas. I've seen the mayor of San Antonio. I have seen some people here. That's really cool to always see. We've had some NFL players get married here, which is a really big deal for me.
There's your bring in your
drop
Cowboys
the Cowboys
merch.
cup.
Yeah,
for any of you listening and not watching on YouTube, she's a big Cowboys fan.
Win, lose, or tied, but next year's our year. Man, what's the craziest one? Well, it's not really like blissful, but it was crazy. Like, craziest thing I've ever seen. Ceremony is supposed to start. Bride doesn't come downstairs because she has just presented the groom with a prenuptial, like literally 15.
Right before?
Wow.
Made the wedding coordinator go into the groom's room. Hey, we need you to sign this. I mean, like 15 minutes before the ceremony starts. And we're all like, no, this is a joke. Like, she's just trying to, no, it was not a joke. And ceremony ended up starting an hour and a half late. And they went ahead and had the ceremony and the reception, but no documents were signed. Like you said earlier, you know, we were talking about earlier, the officiant, okay, it's a body there, but that marriage is not legal until that document gets sent off to the county.
Right.
So it's basically just a party, and that's what they had. And you know what? I never knew what happened afterwards. I was too scared to follow up and ask them, hey, did this work? I don't know. I don't see him on Instagram anymore. So, gosh, that was a crazy. like so bizarre. I've seen some bizarre things and I've seen a lot of fun things too. And I think the most exciting part is the it's go time photo for me when I get to watch bride and dad or bride and mom, whoever it is that's walking them down the aisle, just everything come full circle, you know, and not just a happy day for the bride and groom, but the moms and dads. Like, I don't think moms and dads get enough credit. I don't think they didn't get enough credit. And you can't say this on TikTok, but it's the mom and dad's wedding too, okay? Because that's their child,
Right?
And it really is. They're giving their child away. Like, that's so big. You guys have kids. I have kids. I dread that day, but I'm so excited for it too.
Right.
And I think that's so beautiful, seeing mom and dad just look at their children like full circle. Look, and all of our friends and family are here. Like, it never gets old. It never gets old.
You have that conversation too, I'm sure, where I'll have a dad tell me, dude, your kids are little. Hang on. I'm like, don't say that. I know. I fast forward to that wedding day in my head every time. Dad and daughter are out there, dad and bride, and they're emotional. I'm like, it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming for us.
Pump the brakes, because it does. It flies by. And you're very. I always try to make it a point to really make sure. I would say the bride and groom, the only thing they should do on the wedding day is just look pretty. But that's for moms and dads too. I mean, dad doesn't look pretty necessarily, but maybe, but it is. They should be in the moment. They shouldn't be running around trying to, where's the toss bouquet? Where somebody pour the champagne? Like, that's another reason to have professionals around you so they can enjoy the day too.
Yes. And that's something we often talk about. And we know we have a lot of mom of the bride and mom of the groom listeners.
A lot of follows. Hey moms out there.
So you guys, just know that for your professional vendors and venues and us out there, we're thinking of you guys too, as he just mentioned. Like, we really want it to be enjoyable, not only for the couple, but for the family and, the guests that are there, because it's a big day for everyone. And that should be utmost importance to everybody there.
Can I tell you one of my favorite things about your venue?
Yes.
The first time I was there, I don't know what is the foliage going down the stairs on left and right. What is that plant?
The vine. Yeah, the trumpet vine.
Okay, so the first time I was there, butterflies. I don't know what was blooming, but they were just, the bride like walked down through whatever 60 plus steps, and there were just butterflies on both sides. I was like, what is this Cinderella moment with all these butterflies? It was the first time I was there, and I'm like, this is like out of a movie here. That was unbelievable. And I've seen them since, but never quite. They were just, we just hit the right day or something. But my goodness, I told people, you got to pay extra. You got to pay extra to bring in the butterflies.
You release the butterflies.
What time of year was that? Do you know when the butterflies are there?
Usually don't the butterflies hit your windshield on I-10 like in October or November, right?
Yeah.
Fall time.
Is that time of year that they'll also be like,
They weren't the what are they, the something nose, the snout nose or something, but they were like the yellow ones, and they was just really, man, I was like,
he sent me videos. Whose husband sends them videos of butterflies? I don't know.
Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
It was magical.
Yeah.
There you go. It was pretty.
So we're going to do one quick thing here. We are going to remind our listeners where to find us. So if you're listening and you want more help with your wedding, you can check out The Wedding Duo at theweddingduo.co. You can, of course, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, watch our podcast on YouTube, or listen wherever you podcast. But also, we want you to go out and follow Kristin and Kendall Point. You can find them, Texas Wedding Venue, right, on TikTok. They're also on Instagram.
She's a big player here in Texas. I don't know who else besides us will like put the effort into the TikToks. Is there another vendor in town? I don't think so. I feel like the first person I think of is you that gets the whole
social media.
I'll never be as cool as you guys, but I want to. My kids think I'm cool. Whatever.
Hey, that's fantastic.
That matters. The kids only think you're cool for so long, I think.
That's right. Capitalize.
Is there anything else you want to cover, Kristin?
I'm just excited to be here. I think we did a lot.
Yeah.
I think TikTok is a great resource for our couples. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Because TikTok is new. Like, that's just like COVID new. Has it only been out for like 3 years?
Well, I think it was out longer, but I think it through COVID, it absolutely just took off and and became, the biggest player in social media and completely transformed marketing to short form video content. Like, right? Like now Instagram does it. Now YouTube does it. Now, so it has just changed the game for all of us out there, trying to hustle on social media. It took it to that place where like, you better do some videos or you are going to fall behind.
It's work.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot of work. I know what you guys put into it. And I love seeing y'all here behind the scenes and like taking videos. And I see the videos being taken and I see it on TikTok. I'm like, I was there. I remember that. And just the spin on it.
Yeah.
So great resource for our couples. But it's TikTok and not everybody is a professional, right? And so it's hard, I think, for couples. Even for me, I fall in those traps. I'm like, that's a great idea. But is it practical?
Right.
At the end of the day, your wedding, you got to do what you want to do. Take the advice, look at the videos. If it doesn't work for you, okay, cool. Like, it's your wedding. Yeah.
Yeah. And as professionals that see weddings every weekend, we know that having the, custom bar sign with your dog's faces on it is not going to break or make or break your day, right? Like those aren't the pieces, even though they're cute and nice to have. It's more about kind of what we covered here on this episode, like having professionals surround you, people that care and are going to make your day best day ever, right?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
I have one other question that we didn't cover that I think is helpful for brides. How many trips, tours? I know they do a final walkthrough, and of course they do the initial tour, which I know I've seen you doing. I showed up one day and you were doing a virtual tour. You were on a Zoom call with somebody walking around, which is great because I know not everybody, if they're out of town and they're a destination thing or people are coming together, do you need a third? Or is it just like the first one, you sign the thing and then there's a final walkthrough? Or what do you tell brides when they say, I want to come every weekend and see it one more time?
It happens. It happens. And I'm like, I want to see you too, but hold on a second.
Right.
They can as they want. But we make everything so easily. All of our floor plans are online and so much social media presence. Usually I can just do a FaceTime with the bride. Like, hey, I want to come back and measure something. Cool. I hop on the phone. We measure it. Is this what you're looking for? Cool. Awesome. So they can come out and they want to show mom and they want to show groom's mom and they want to show grandma and they want to show everybody. So we're pretty flexible, but I might see them 2 or 3 times before their wedding.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Yeah. And it's nice to ask that question when you initially tour, I guess, too. Like, do I have the opportunity to come back, right? If I need to measure something, or are you going to answer those questions for me? Or
that
how do I
speaks
get
volumes about you, my friend, to know that you're like, I know. Okay. They want to see. That's what I'm talking about. That's the passion you need out of your vendor. Say like, grandma's in town. Can we come by? You're like, yeah, come on by. I mean, I can't, I'm sure there are people that are like, no, you had your tour. Right. I have other brides before you, but I mean, yeah, but it's,
and there's something to be said for that. We all have our schedules, right? Sure. And we're not, going to meet you at 8 p.m. on a Thursday or whatever. But, there's got to be flexibility on both sides. But
we do that. We plan with you.
Yeah, we do.
But we do. We always have whoever's next in line. That's always our priority, right? But then you try to make time. They're not that you're not our clients, but there's going to be a day where your wedding is a week away, and you're going to want to be the priority, right? As the bride or the parents.
Yes. And that's important.
So it's like, you got to keep that in mind, brides out there. If somebody doesn't answer their phone Saturday afternoon, that's a good sign. That means they're busy. They're at a wedding. Saturdays are go time for everybody in this industry.
Yes. Taking notes for TikTok. I'm going to do that, Dominic. If we don't answer on a Saturday, that's good. We're busy.
See? Yes.
It's a good sign. Yeah.
You shouldn't be answering your phone. You're dealing with a couple getting married.
And sometimes it's Tuesday when the replies for the email, because on Monday we're like,
yeah, we're trying to recover.
We're coming out of a 2 or 3 wedding weekend. We're like, I need a minute. I can't look at the inbox just yet.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
True.
I'm doing that TikTok first. I'm just kidding. No, you go ahead. I'm not doing. I got to do music ones. My wife's always like, we need music videos.
We need more music.
Fine.
TikToks.
They're good. Yeah.
So that was fantastic. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit today. And we will end this podcast the way we end every podcast. How do we do that, Dominic?
Well, we usually tell people, just like Kristin was saying earlier, it is a very personal day. It is, don't let your crazy cousin tell you, oh my God, you got to pay extra to get the chairs upgraded. No, you don't. You don't have to get the chairs upgraded if you don't want to. And this is the other thing. We don't say this all the time. If you bump into a cousin that came to your wedding 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years later, what are they going to remember? Right? What are they going to remember? Like, you don't go to these weddings and you don't nitpick everything as a guest, right?
Right.
So if you can't afford to upgrade something, it's like, just Focus on the fact that you're there for the two of you, committing to each other for your life. Your family and friends are there because they love you and they want to have a good time and celebrate with you. You know, if the candles are out of place on the table, you can't cry. Don't cry about that. But anyway,
that's not how we end every podcast.
I just went on a
that was the
like
extended version.
But don't let somebody talk you into something you don't want to do, and don't let anybody talk you out of something you have your heart set on. It is your day.
You do you. All right, Kristin, we're going to blow him a kiss. Ready?
Jump in on this. Ready?
Happy wedding planning, y'all.
Mwah.
Yay.
Hey, so thanks for listening to our podcast. If you found any of this information helpful and you know someone who may be engaged or is a maid of honor, maybe you could tell them and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. So screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, on Facebook, and tag the wedding duo. We promise to share the love back. Also, if you are interested in more resources or the show notes, you can go to theweddingduo.co. We have one-on-one virtual sessions, a shop, all sorts of fun stuff. Check it out.